Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the follow-up to Week 12, and we're going to start off with how we did. How'd you do?
Well, I went 3-0 this week.
Whoa!
I know, much needed in all of every league.
Well, the one,
the Dynasty League that
you're
we're
guaranteed.
in, I clinched. So
Yep.
I think this win this week got me the clinch for playoffs. So
Yep.
I'm in 5th in the other Dynasty League. So
And that's
they do the top 4 in that one for playoffs.
Is that a 10-teamer?
I believe it is.
And they only take 4, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty cutthroat.
Yeah.
I'm in 5th, so need another win because I believe, this week and then next week, I think they start playoffs next week.
No.
Yeah.
Not with only 4 teams.
I could look it up.
Or is that multi-week thing?
Yeah, I don't remember. Let me take a peek here.
Okay.
Sleeper.
I'll talk about mine.
Yeah,
I went 2-1. I lost in my 32-year league, which leaves me in a tie for first place, but he holds the tiebreakers. I won the other 2, came back on Monday night. Well, I had a slight lead, but he had Dobbins and Henry going against my Lamar Jackson, and Lamar pulled me through. So now I've clinched a first-round bye.
Gotcha.
Which is nice. And then in the other one, I played against our loser of the week, and I pulled out a win,
nice.
126.99, even though she had 3 people on bye or IR. And the nice thing about that one, it's an 8-team league, and 6 teams make the playoffs.
Nice.
And I will be hard-pressed to not make the playoffs now, but I'm also the 3rd highest scoring team in the league.
Yeah.
And the players that were injured have either gotten healthy or I've gotten other guys in there. So, I mean, I would be worried about myself if I were someone else because I've still got a good team.
Yep. Yeah. So I just looked. It does say there's a countdown timer. Says 8 days till playoffs start.
That makes no sense when you've only got 4 teams.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just the top 4 duke it out for the 2 weeks, and then the bottom 6. It could be something like for draft order for the bot. I don't know. I don't.
I mean, you should be able to be done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And to use week 14, which has buys.
Yeah.
I mean, in our dynasty league,
right.
In our dynasty league, I'm missing both of my quarterbacks.
Yep.
In a super flex.
Yeah.
And guess what? Daniel Jones isn't on a team and isn't playing, and Gardner Minshew is out.
Yeah.
So I don't even have a quarterback to play.
Yeah.
But it's week 14, and I'm guaranteed a first round bye. So it's not. But we don't start till 15.
In all fairness, the NFL, the bye schedule this year was just like most years was just like what was there 2 separate weeks this year for buys where there's like 6 teams each. Like it just seems like they could have.
You got to get 30 through 32 teams, and you don't want to start until like week 4 or 5.
True. Well, and I'm sure, TV scheduling plays into all that.
It's about making money. It's not about fantasy football.
Yeah.
They don't care about you.
Of course,
they don't care about me. They don't. It's but I question why a league would pop. And you've got people that say, well, you should know how to draft. Well, sure, but when I'm drafting,
you're not worried. You're at that point. You're not looking at the end of season.
Right. You're more worried about, do I have both of my running backs on the bye the same week in week 7?
Yeah.
Do I have both of my wide receivers and a quarterback off in week 11? It's not right. It's not. Yep. Wow. What about week 14?
Yep.
Do we actually have playoffs in week 14?
Yeah.
If we do, boy, that sure changes things.
Yeah. So I mean. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said,
And you might be okay.
Yeah, I guess I haven't looked that far ahead in that league either.
Right.
But,
well, you're going to need to.
Yeah, well, and then I got the much-needed win in the Yahoo League. That I wish I could show. I wish I could show this. Like, if I could hold it up, I could show the standings. First place, John, he's 10-2. And then like second and third are both 7-5, I believe.
Wow.
And then there's the middle of the league. There's like 7 of us that are 5-7, I believe. And I was in 11th last week, 11th place. I won. I put up a pretty like 130 something points. That shot me all the way up to 7th. So I'm one spot out there. I play Brittany this week. I have the highest projected point
Is she?
total. She's in like 3rd now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she's she's kind of the inverse of my team, where I didn't. There's weeks where I only needed to score 110 points to win.
And you put up 170.
And I'd put up 170, and then there was a week I needed 170, and I'd put up 95.
Yeah.
So she had the kind of the inverse. Her team,
fewer points
actually
against.
played for the matchup. So
yeah.
she, but that's the way it goes. But so I'm playing her this week, but kind of same. If I make it into playoffs, I mean, our first place team, John, his team is it's stacked. He's got Lamar. I mean, he went heavy on the Ravens, but he's got Lamar, Zay Flowers. He's got Derrick Henry. He also has Saquon Barkley.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he's got George Kittle. He was pick 12. I was pick 11, and I went. My first round pick was Jahmyr Gibbs, and then he went Barkley, Saquon Henry, and then
how did those
back
two
around.
last to 12 and 13?
I mean, full PPR, so all of the receivers went. Breece Hall went. McCaffrey was number 1.
Yeah.
And then Breece Hall was the second running back, and then I think it was Bijan after that.
Yeah, I suppose.
So at 11, I went Gibbs and then Kyron. And then obviously now hindsight, you're like, I should have went Saquon and then gotten Kyron.
Yeah.
And the 202 or whatever you want to call it. But I made some trades, so now my starting lineup is Joe Burrow, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, Kyron, Bucky Irving, Mark Andrews if it's a good matchup.
But you've been not playing him. Yeah, you've been not playing him, and he's been playing well.
Yep. And then my flex is either DK Metcalf, Tony Pollard, or T. Higgins.
Yeah.
So, like I said, if I make playoffs, I've got a team that can put up monster numbers.
Right.
But if I miss out, I should be okay in the consolation bracket.
Yeah. So moving on, we've got our injuries. We're going to start with Jatavian Sanders, tight end from Carolina. Neck injury. He's still being evaluated. He was tackled and landed pretty much
vertical.
Yeah, pretty much up and down, right on top of his head. Yep. Kind of bounced, and the neck took the brunt of it. Hopefully all is well with him. I mean, he was moving extremities and everything, which is a good sign. But, watching that, it was kind of scary. I mean, it brings back some, as Packer fans, we've had the Nick Collins, who was the tight end?
Was it Finley that had the neck?
Yep, Finley. And, I mean, we've had a few of those where – guys got injured, neck injuries, and the Packers are a team that if you've got the potential to do more damage, they'll let them go. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's up with Sanders. I'm just saying, it's a scary thing.
Yeah, and he was, with Sanders, dynasty-wise, was a guy that, interesting, especially if Carolina – if they were to move on from Bryce Young already, which there were, some rumors at the trade deadline going around too. He was a guy that, and he had a couple weeks where he was pretty good, so he's, super talented. So hopefully
he wasn't
going forward.
Who, Jatavian?
Jatavian.
Yeah. I mean, this past week, Bryce looked good.
They almost beat, Kansas City.
Yeah,
so
I mean, Kansas City, while they played pretty well, they sure. I mean, they played poorly on defense.
supposed elite defense was not elite.
Right. Next up, we've got David Montgomery, week to week with a shoulder issue.
Oh, boy. If he misses, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to go...
Yeah.
Like, he'll put up what Saquon just did.
Yeah, very possibly.
He will go absolutely nuclear.
Well, especially since they play the Bears.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting play.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Khalif Raymond, week to week with a foot injury. They think he might miss some time.
Okay. Was he still on the Bills?
No, he's on Detroit.
Detroit. Oh, yeah. I don't know who I was thinking of then.
Khalil Shakir.
Maybe that was it. I don't know.
Khalil.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Romeo Dobbs. He's in concussion protocol.
Yeah, that one, I mean, if, concussion protocol, a short week, because we're Thursday night as well.
Right.
So, I would be surprised if he plays.
I would be also.
Which kind of stinks because Christian Watson, dropped the wide open, 50-yard touchdown. So you'd hope that Dobbs would be able to step up. If Dobbs misses, that brings Dontavian Wicks if you're in a real tight spot.
Malik Heath caught a touchdown.
Yep. So I mean they've got guys that can filter in.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I was reading on Bleacher Report that someone in the Packer group was like, wouldn't it be better if we had a number one receiver? And I always think about situations like this. You lose a Romeo Dobbs, you lose a Christian Watson, you lose take any one of those guys out, maybe even two, and what's the impact?
No.
It's not huge. No. It's not like losing your best players because Jordan Love can find any of them. Mm-hmm. They know the routes. They run the routes. It's more a question of are they going to catch the ball?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them have had a lot of drops, but it's nicer in my mind not having a prima donna, i.e. George Pickens, who thinks that he is the most important player on the field. Mm-hmm. And he has to feed his ego with passes coming his way. Mm-hmm. So, next up we've got Josh Downs and Ashton Doolin, both week to week. Downs with a shoulder, Doolin with an ankle. Mm-hmm. Although
didn't Alec Pierce get banged up in the game too?
I'm not sure.
I thought he missed a little bit of time in that game, but
maybe they didn't mention anything about him. But I mean, Pierce and Pittman had nice games.
Yep.
So again, I mean, it's similar to the Packers. The other two are kind of nice to haves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the Colts, obviously because they played Detroit. Tough defense. Jonathan Taylor had a really bad game. Mm-hmm.
He's on our does list.
So I guess I'll save my 2 cents then for later.
Yeah. Yeah, he did really well. Next up, we've got where am I?
Peyton
Hendershot.
Ooh.
Tight end for Kansas City. He's like their 8th tight end. No, he's their third tight end. Calf injury week to week. He doesn't see a lot of targets.
No,
so.
I mean if Ferguson misses again because he was with the concussion, if Ferguson misses again and if Hendershot misses, I mean you could take a dart throw at Schoonmaker.
Well, Schoonmaker actually had a good week.
Yeah, and I'm saying again, if Ferguson is out and Hendershot's out, and there's truly
Hendershot's on KC.
He is?
Yeah.
Oh, was he not on Dallas?
He was. I believe he was. He's on.
I got to keep up on these obscure tight ends.
Yeah. I mean, this is like the world of tight ends. Yeah. Without Ferguson.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you say?
Schoonmaker
was actually scored a touchdown, I believe. And next up, we've got Gardner Minshew, who I said is out for the season for fractured collarbone. Mm-hmm. Probably means that
Desmond Ridder.
Yeah. It might be Desmond Ritter time.
Isn't Aiden still out?
I'm not sure,
Yeah.
which is interesting because Daniel Jones already said that he won't go to Las Vegas,
Yeah,
even
he wants
though
to go to a contender.
yeah, even though he would step in and be the starter. Now, are you fixing your image or your showing ability by going to a team that's bad and possibly not doing well?
I mean,
or are you better off?
I have a feeling if he went to Vegas, it would end up being essentially what just happened to him in New York.
Right.
Where, I mean, yeah, obviously he had Saquon, and then Malik Neighbors this year, but, through basically his entire career in New York, they just refused to get
Right.
weapons.
Well, and they
Their
refused to
line
have
was
an offensive
horrible.
line.
Exactly. Their line was horrible, so he was getting the crap kicked out of him. And I will say, we talked about Daniel Jones, last week I was like, I like a team like Baltimore go up and scoop him up. And then Schefter came out like 2 days later and was like, well, the reporters, Baltimore and
KC and Minnesota
as well. And I'm like, to me, that would make sense. I mean, you could, you'd pay him, whatever you'd have to do for the rest of the season.
I think they can sign him for a minimum.
Yeah.
Because he's
minimum.
already got the 40 mil.
Yeah. So they sign him for minimum, and God forbid, your Baltimore, Lamar goes down. Obviously, Jones completely changes that offense.
Oh, yeah.
But, he's still a starter, a starting quarterback who, in spots can have really, really good games.
Right. Well, and you tell me that the Giants fans were ecstatic about the job that Danny DeVito did. I know, Tommy.
Yeah.
It was actually worse than what normally happened when Daniel Jones was there. So
you got Malik Neighbors, who, not even through his first season is already, the stuff he's saying in the post game, he's the one was, it wasn't any different. The outcome was the same with
right.
He said,
well, I think he was, I think he was a fan of DJ.
You got to go talk to Brian and, and what was going on. And there was a clip of, so apparently came out a clip of Brian Dable at a press conference, and it was like literally right then the news broke that they were releasing him, and there was in the background there was a lot of like banging around going on, and apparently was it Darius Slayton was back there throwing stuff around because he was pissed because he's good friends with Daniel Jones.
Yep.
And for as bad as Daniel Jones can be, he gave them the best chance to, potentially win.
Yeah.
But I think it was just so toxic there that they were like, I just got to get out of here.
I want to say that I think that Daniel Jones is probably still a top 20 quarterback or so in the NFL. There are teams that he would be much better than or better than their starting quarterback.
Yeah, maybe he'll get the Baker Mayfield career resurgence somewhere.
He very well may. I mean, he's still fairly young, so it'll be interesting to see. Next up, we've got Brian Robinson. He had an ankle issue and returned, so I doubt there's much concern there.
Yep.
Austin Eckler is in concussion protocol.
Yeah, he got full lights out.
I did not see that.
I think he was coming, as he came down, his head hit if I remember right, his head hit, and then somebody kind of came back on top of him. But then when they rolled off, he was limp. I mean, he was out, so he'll probably miss at least this week, I imagine. So
that's too bad.
And then they got their bye the week after, too. So
which is important.
Yeah.
Week 14 bye. That's a good time for it.
Yep.
Next up, we've got J.K. Dobbins, knee issue, unknown how long he could be out. I didn't see it.
It was kind of tackled, and the guy kind of spun around, and the knee kind of torqued a little bit, and then he got up, and he was kind of grabbing at it, and then...
Now, has he had knee?
Yeah, he blew his knee out. I can't remember which one, if this was the same one or not, but he had blown his knee out, and then it was his Achilles.
Right. That's what I thought.
So he's had issues before, so I don't remember which one it was.
That poor guy can't catch a break because he was having a good year.
He's he's a monster.
But he can't
can be
stay
a top
healthy,
5 running
unfortunately.
back, yeah.
And then the last person we've got on the list is Cedric Tillman. He's in concussion protocol also. He left early in that Thursday night game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, aside from the 2-week blow up, the Jameis has been spreading the ball around, and it's been the more consistent one has been Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Yeah.
And Tillman came out of pretty much nowhere, and
there was some hot buzz, So I think this is his second year, if I'm not mistaken. There was some buzz in his rookie year in training camp and preseason. There was some buzz, and then he just never saw the field.
Yeah,
So.
I had to elevate him off my practice squad, my taxi squad, and lose a taxi squad place. And I've been playing him because you never know. You ride the hot hand, especially with the injuries that my teams have been dealing with. Moving on to our studs, we've got Saquon plus 30.39. He caught all 4 of his targets for 47 yards, 26 rushes for a paltry 255 yards and 2 touchdowns.
The dude is... Yeah. I don't know what to say.
As much as I like Josh Jacobs, during the offseason, I had wished that the Packers would get Saquon.
Yeah, but now everybody was in that boat.
Now I don't know. It does, and I just don't know about this. Does Saquon run in a zone blocking scheme? That could be one of the reasons he might not be set up for the system that we run. Yeah. So it's the same thing with offensive linemen when they become available. Why aren't the Packers going after this guy? Well, that guy doesn't block in the zone blocking scheme. Yep. So why would you want him? He may be a world-class athlete, but
that's why I think Saquon would have done well no matter what.
I think so too.
As a running back,
now,
got to be able to, run in his own scheme, versus whatever, you want to straight up or whatever you want to call it. You got to be able to do all of that. And like I said, I think he's the MVP of the league.
Wait, not a quarterback?
No.
Oh, I don't know if you can do that. Can non-quarterbacks be the MVP?
I'm trying to think of who it would be. Of a quarterback.
Lamar.
It'd be Lamar, but what Saquon's doing is just, it's it's historical at this point. The yardage was that was the record for the Eagles,
right?
And that was like 255 is like he's up there on the list of like all time or something like that. So, it was funny when he broke that last run and he threw the ball to the guys in the back of the end zone, the fans there that are freaking out. There's like right after that, he's on the sideline and he's talking to like their, athletic manager,
equipment manager.
And he goes, "You got that ball?" And the guy goes, "You gave it away." And Saquon's just like, "Oh," he just made this face, like realizing what he did.
It can't be any
like
worse than Mike Evans.
That's what I was just going to say. Mike Evans throwing out Brady's
600th touchdown. Boom! There it goes. What do you mean you threw my 600th touchdown away? Next up, we've got the aforementioned Josh Jacobs plus, what does it say, 16.1? There's the funny thing. No. Saquon plus 30 above what was anticipated, and Jacobs 16.1 above. Caught 0 of 1 passes, had 26 rushes also. Here's the poultry, 106 yards and 3 tutties.
Yeah.
And he was my pick of the week.
Yeah.
So I want to pat myself on the back for a good choice there because Packers had to run it. So
yeah. And that was what they say. That was the first 100-yard rusher San Fran's given up in was it like 30 or 55 games? It was like a crazy amount of games.
Yeah.
That they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher. So, he's been almost getting better as the season kind of goes along.
Yeah.
He's had some some ups and downs fantasy wise, but it seems like these last couple of weeks he's really, they're really riding, riding the hot hand, which is him. And and you're still seeing Emmanuel Wilson come in a couple times and Lloyd, right? Is he back?
Chris No, Lloyd's
Brooks.
still injured. Chris Brooks.
Yeah. I mean, so they're bringing other backs in to give
Yeah.
him a breather, but he's still. I mean, 26 carries. The
Yeah.
0 for 1 for the receptions. Because he's a very good receiving
He
back
is.
as well.
He is.
So but yeah, I mean, he's just been getting it done, and it's been hurting Love his fantasy production lately. But I mean, as long as Green Bay wins, I don't have either of those. I mean, I don't have Jordan Love on my fantasy team.
I don't either.
Whatever.
I don't
have
either.
Jacobs in the one dynasty league. So
I don't have either, so I'm all good. I rarely, I almost
Yep.
almost never take Packers.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. I'm good with it. I don't like relying on my team to do well
'cause
or
if
do poorly.
the Packers do bad, then your guy on your team does bad, and
Yeah.
it's just a double
Right,
burn.
right.
So.
Punch me in the face twice. Next up, we've got Noah Gray plus 15.09. Caught all 4 of his targets for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
And he was their leading receiver yardage-wise.
that's
And I think that Kelsey had like 9 targets and 6 catches for 61 yards or something.
So still a good game from Kelsey.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean the 2 touchdowns. I think it was the second touchdown I was watching on my computer while I was playing video games, and I was like, "Is that Noah Gray again?" And then I think it was shortly after that you text me because you had called him out in the waiver wire segment, last week.
Yeah,
So
I guess I'm going to have to pick him up this week.
yeah.
Because I didn't do it last week. Next up, we've got Caleb Williams plus 14.96, 32 of 47 passing, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 rushes, 33 yards.
Good game.
I believe he led their team in rushing with 33 yards.
Yeah, and
Swift disappeared.
Almost beat the Vikings. Like I said, I told my coworker last week, I said, I truly believe you guys are going to beat the Vikings this week, and they almost did.
Yeah.
But
they're a better team than their record indicates.
Mm-hmm.
They make some really stupid mistakes at times. They get well. I mean, we blocked the field goal to win the game against them a week ago, and then they had a blocked field goal again.
Yeah.
So
there was a story that came out that is it Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coordinator for Green Bay, said that he knew they were going to block that because Pinheiro, right? Who's their kicker?
Cairo Santos.
That's who. They said that when he kicks from whatever
Pinheiro
distance
doesn't
that is,
miss.
That's true. He's historically now he's the most accurate kicker because Justin Tucker's
pooping the bed.
washed. But they said that he kicks at such a low trajectory that they knew they were going to block that kick.
Wow.
So maybe teams are catching on.
Yeah. Well, no, they're illegally touching that center.
Yeah. Well,
or
you
the long
snap the
snapper,
ball and you keep your head down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be a 1001. And then
well, and I watched that play a couple of times, and immediately after snapping, he tucked his head and made sure that it was down.
Yeah.
It's like, well, did you hear that, so 2 weeks ago it was Eberflus, and this past week it was Shanahan. Shanahan thinks that we were given preferential treatment because they did not allow them to substitute on that 12 men on the field call.
I missed that.
So they called. So we broke the huddle quickly because we saw that they were bringing a guy in, and I don't know that the Packers did or didn't swap out personnel.
Gotcha.
But they were in the huddle, and the other team, San Fran, was swapping someone out, and they jumped to the line. They snapped the ball, and they got called for 12 men on the field. However, we had a guy moving, so it was offsetting penalties. The thing that ticked him off, though, was he was arguing then, Shanahan, with the refs, and the very next play, 12 men on the field. So you just got called for 12 men on the field, and instead of making sure that you don't have 12 men on the field, you're arguing with the officials, complaining about stuff, and then you get 12 men on the field.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for Caleb, nice to see like we said, Packers fans, you don't want the Bears to do that good, but it's nice to see, the NFC North, like when the Bears have a great week, the NFC North is far and away, in my opinion, the best conference right now.
Right.
Obviously with the
Division.
Lions, with the Lions at the top, and then whatever
Yeah,
you want to say
talking,
between Minnesota and Green Bay. I mean, obviously as a
but you're
Packers
talking
fan,
10-1, 9-2, 8-3.
Yeah.
I mean, those three right now easily in the playoffs.
Yep.
And it looked early on that the Bears might actually make the playoffs, but
Yeah. So, I mean, moving forward, I think he'll still be kind of up and down,
Oh, yeah.
Still rookie year, and then whatever's going to happen with Eberflus at the end of the year, most likely. Yeah.
probably gone.
Yeah, whether they bring Keenan Allen back or not. I mean, he had a good game.
Was he a 1 year?
It might have been 2, but it was basically a 1 year.
Okay.
It was,
I mean,
one that they could get out of easily without paying a whole lot,
I like them with him. I mean, he adds, you have to watch out for him.
Yeah.
He's dangerous. So it allows DJ Moore and Adunze
Yep.
to really do some stuff. And
Yeah, and DJ Moore had a really good game as well.
he did, and he sat on my bench.
Yep, I had traded him away in Dynasty the day before that game. In that same league, Patrick Mahomes got moved again. I was telling you that for Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams was part of that trade. Swapping the quarterbacks and then picks as well. So,
Well, and here was my issue. Do I play DJ Moore over JJ? No. Do I play DJ Moore over Neighbors? I mean, this past week, granted, we didn't know what we were going to get, but Neighbors in the second half had the kind of half that you'd expect for the. I mean,
for the game.
yeah.
For both.
Had they kept on throwing, he would have had 9-10 points easily
Yeah.
in a non-PPR. Justin Jefferson, as we'll see, didn't have much of anything. So our last stud was, of course, JJ's running mate, Jordan Addison. Jordan was plus 14.39. He was 8 catches on 9 targets, 162 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, he just. I mean, the Chicago did a good job of taking JJ out of it. I mean, I'll give credit. Was it Jalen Johnson, their corner or safety or whatever? I mean, they kind of it's obviously we'll talk about it. Took JJ out of the game, but then Addison, filled in, stepped up. Whatever. I think
and
Hawkinson
Naylor had a
as well.
touchdown.
Naylor had a touchdown. I mean, Aaron Jones had a good game.
Yeah.
So, it just seemed like every time you expected it to be a Justin Jefferson at the bottom of the pile, here pops up Addison, and you're like,
and it's not for not trying because he was 2 catches on 5 targets. There were pass interference calls. At least like 2 or 3 of them where it was going his way, but he was interfered with and couldn't catch it. So, yes, they tried to get him the ball, and I does that ever worry me? No. I mean, I would have liked to have gotten the points from him because I maybe could have won, but no. Moving on to our duds, starting with CMC, minus 12.21 points. Caught 3 of his 4 targets for 37 yards and had 11 rushes for 31 yards. Packers just stymied him.
Yeah, I mean, we sold out to stop him.
Yeah.
Pretty much every time they handed him the ball because, there's no threat from Brandon Allen. Deebo Samuel, I'm sure, was probably not far off of the duds list here because he was 1 catch for 23 yards or something like that, or 21 yards. So, Kittle ended up, obviously Kittle had a nice game.
Yeah.
Because he had the touchdown, but,
Nice play across the middle, too.
Yeah. So, Green Bay just, we're going to stop CMC because he's killed us in the past.
And I get, everyone's like, well, you beat a team that was down. Well, we were without Jair. We were without Edgerrin Cooper. We were, it's the, no, is it Brock Purdy? No. But it just shows you. I mean, we've won 2 games without our quarterback this year. By putting in Malik Willis,
who was one of the Packers defensive. I think it was the defensive players was saying they said the same thing. He was like, we won 2 games without Jordan Love. I
Right.
don't want to hear anything about how you didn't have Brock Purdy, you know. And like you brought up, CMC still there. Debo, you know, they're healthy. Kittle, obviously. You know, Juwan Jennings, who's been, you know, great, you know, when he's been, you know, more of the focus for the offense.
Right.
You know, I mean, they still had these pieces. And, you know, just because you have Brock Purdy, you don't have Brock Purdy, got to figure it out.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think that would be a team that Daniel Jones could possibly go to and help.
yeah.
Depending upon how long Purdy's going to be out, because they're not going to win games with
Allen.
Allen.
Or whoever else they had. I don't even know who else. I don't know if, like, Nick Mullins is still there or
Yeah,
something.
actually, I think that might be who it is, because I believe he came in when Purdy got hurt. Next up, we've got Joe Mixon, minus 11.81. He caught 5 of 6 targets for 23 yards and rushed 14 times for 22 yards. I mean, they needed to pass because they weren't doing well, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's 19 touches, and
Yeah.
you got to put together more yards than 45 yards.
Yeah. I mean, again, just with that amount of, or that number of touches, you know, for him, obviously, you know, he's been really, really good with a big workload, and just one of those games where it just didn't happen. You know, like you said, they had to pass a lot. You know, bone to pick with Mixon, because this is, I don't know how many times that dude gets called for illegal motion or illegal shift, because he, you know, there was, it was on a Nico Collins, his second touchdown that got called back because I think it was Mixon and Dell both went in motion at the same time.
And they both didn't reset.
Yep. You know, and and Mixon's been called on that a couple
And you and I
times
both
this
have
season.
Collins.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I didn't, you know, it would have been nice. I didn't need it this week on, you know, for my Yahoo team, but, you know, it's just obviously because last week, you know, first play from scrimmage, 77-yard touchdown wiped because Tunsil was too far downfield, you know, on a screenplay.
Right.
So, you know, it's just frustrating to see that. So
Agreed. Next up, we've got the aforementioned Justin Jefferson, minus 9.31, 2 catches on 5 targets for 27 yards. He just, like we said, I mean, there were other people. They shut him down. He was involved, but interference calls, and so it is what it is. I'm not too worried about him either.
Nope.
Next up, we've got JT, Jonathan Taylor, minus 8.4. And and the funny thing is, I mean, you're talking pretty much those 4 are first round or maybe a top second round pick, all in the same week, having a crap week. Justin Taylor, 0 catches on 0 targets and 11 rushes for 35 yards.
Yeah. So, like I was going to talk about earlier, same thing with for the Rams. That's really frustrating to watch. Is JT is kind of the knock on him. We've talked about before, coming out of Wisconsin, is, you know, we didn't catch that many passes in college. Not a lot of running backs do catch a lot of passes in college, but
especially not at Wisconsin.
Well, of course, yeah. So, you know, but he showed, you know, his rookie season when he was phenomenal. I mean, great hands, you know, was really good, you know, and Anthony Richardson's one of those quarterbacks that he's going to just take it himself. You know, it's similar to, you know, Lamar, where play breaks down, you know, even if he's been using obviously Justice Hill had that huge touchdown last night, but, you know, those dump off targets aren't coming because Richardson's just going to tuck it and run, or he's going to try and throw it 65 yards down the field because he's got the arm strength to do it. You know, it's the same with the Rams, where Stafford's trying to play hero ball and squeeze it into a tight window to Puka or Cooper Kupp, and Kyron's standing in the middle of the field, 6 yards away from him, completely wide open, and they could convert that first down with ease, but Stafford tries to force it, and then it's turnover, or they go 3. It's just
that sounds like the old Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
Yeah, you know, just super frustrating. You know, and JT, you know, when Richardson's out there, his production just takes a hit. I mean, again, they were playing Detroit, so, tough matchup. Obviously, you see the 11 carries for 35 yards. Detroit, they're just playing so well right now. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Last one on the list, Quentin Johnston, minus 8.32, pretty much disappeared last night.
Well, I think he dropped every single one of those.
Dropped a few passes. He was 0 catches on 5 targets for 0 yards, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, Herbert took some deep shots. He had a couple right on the sideline that he just, flat up dropped. Another one on the other sideline that he had his hands on. The defender came in and, kind of, knocked it loose. But, that's been a problem with Quentin Johnston has been drops.
Yep.
And he had been a little bit on the upswing too the last couple weeks where he was making those.
But Rashad Bateman looked like the better receiver last night.
Yeah. So, for Johnston, it seems like that the Chargers don't want to give up on him, but like I said, you just can't ignore, how, especially last season, but then this season too, you get a game like this with, like I said, I'm pretty sure all 5 of those he dropped.
Yeah. Next up, we've got our waiver wire. Obviously, top of the list is Noah Gray. I am going to be putting in a waiver wire claim on him. I may or may not use him this week, but I still need someone week 14, and we'll have to see. Next up, we've got Bucky Irving.
Yeah, again, like we're joking. If it's 8-team league and he's still sitting out there, he's in my mind. They proved it this week. He had 12 carries and Rachaad White only had 5. What was frustrating with Bucky could have had like a 35-point game, fantasy point, because I think twice got down to the 1, and they brought in Sean Tucker. Right. And both times
Old
Tucker
Sean
scored
Tucker.
1, and then the next one, I think he fumbled on that one, or he got stuffed.
I think so.
So one of those where, again, we've talked about, the offensive player makes a big play down the field or a big rush, and then they're standing on the sideline.
Yep.
And it's like, what are you doing? So, just a little frustrating, but he still had a really good game. He's, again, if you're in a 10-team league, there's no way he's still out there. But if somehow he is, definitely pick him up.
Yep. Next up, we've got David Moore from Carolina. He was a big part of the passing game this week. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because was this the first week that Thielen was back?
Yes.
So, Thielen was getting looks, and Thielen's as far as I'm concerned, Thielen is an excellent wide receiver, even as he's getting old, or I shouldn't say old because I'm old, but he looks good out there. But David Moore was the go-to guy. I think he had like 8 or 9 targets and 6 catches or something for 90 some yards or something like that. It was a good week.
Jalen Coker was out. Was Leggett out this week, or I can't remember if Leggett played or not.
Yeah, I think he was there.
Yeah. So, had an opportunity to shine, and he took it. And like we said, Bryce Young looked actually pretty good against Kansas City. And obviously, like I said, came down to a last-second kick for KC to remain 10-1.
Tied with a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
So the last one you have is?
Yeah, I put Gus Edwards with the J.K. Dobbins with the knee. Again, we just, right now we don't know, if it's that same one he tore up before. Right. He could potentially miss some time.
And they gave Gus the ball a couple of times, and he actually, as opposed to falling down and picking up a yard, he actually picked up some yardage.
Yeah, he scored a short touchdown, which, if you had started him, which I did in, I think in our Dynasty League, I did start him. He's my 3rd running back. So, got some points there. But, if Dobbins is out, Gus Edwards becomes the one. They had Hassan Haskins out there a couple times too as well. So it'll still be a timeshare. Edwards isn't going to get, he's not going to be like a Kyron workload where it's, 99% of the carries. But Edwards is definitely the number one there and the goal line back. So. Right.
And we've come up with our loser of the week. And once again, it's Karen from my 8-team league. Karen has been a regular visitor on the the show.
Holds the title.
Yeah, she holds the title for loser of the. I think we named her loser of the year last year. This week, I had the pleasure of playing against her. Now, the interesting thing is, so she has Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was in her lineup. She actually moved Jamar Chase out Sunday morning, or Sunday before the game, and put someone else in. But she left in
three other players.
Yeah, she left in Harrison Butker, who's on IR. Mm-hmm. She left Mooney and James Cook, who are both on bye. And she could have even picked up. Now she would have had to drop Cook and Mooney probably to get them, or maybe Butker and then pick up a kicker later. But she could have had Rashad Bateman. She could have had. I'm trying to think. Quentin Johnson, although that wouldn't have gotten her anything. But, there were players still available for last night's game, and, she didn't do anything, so I got the 27-point victory. And it's funny because I'm talking to my buddy who runs the league, and he's like, I am really upset with Karen. I'm like, you better not say anything to her because I need the win.
Yeah. Next week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm without Kamara and Brees Hall this week.
Yep.
Just let me make it through this week, and I'll be good. So, did you have anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Enjoy 3 games on Friday, 3 games on Thursday, 1 game on Friday.
Yep.
That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'll be
taking some naps on the couch after you eat.
Yeah, I don't nap. So, I mean, even at my advanced age, I don't nap. So I'll be watching football. And unfortunately, we're the late games. So
yep.
It is what it is.
Yep.
So hopefully you take the time to listen, take the time to watch if you prefer YouTube. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great week.
See ya.
Thank you.